prison.
Your boy, Young Thug is taking a plea deal, y'all.
1 years consecutive
Huh?
to the underlying felony.
Young Thug is taking a plea deal, y'all.
Carries a sentence of 10 years consecutive for a total
yes, he is.
maximum exposure of 120 years in prison. Were you aware of that, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Young Thug taking a plea deal.
Understand?
What he do, Trina?
Why? No, she said up to 20 years in prison.
That neither the court nor the district attorney's office has anything to do with parole or the Department of Corrections or the Board of Pardons and Paroles, and that if you are sentenced to confinement in the Georgia Department of Corrections, no one can guarantee parole.
Something else. Why would he plead? What?
Hopefully he getting a good plea. Hopefully he getting a good plea.
It's time to finish signing the indictment.
Hopefully he taking a good plea, y'all. What he gonna get?
That's fucked up though, because this shit stay. I mean, I know these niggas don't care, but this shit stay with you when you plea out.
What he gonna get, y'all? What y'all think he gonna get? 10 years?
10 years. How old is he?
He was looking at life.
Well, okay, I'll take the 10.
He already did damn near what? 3, 4?
No.
Yeah, this trial been going on for 2 years.
Already?
Your Honor, with permission, may I approach the member?
I figure you do another what? 4 more years, you out.
Yeah.
Right, you ain't gotta worry about none of this shit no more. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Damn, what is wrong with you, Layla? She's a Hodge. For sure. She's a Hodge.
All right, you were looking live again. It looks like they are on a recess inside the courtroom here, as a possible plea deal is in the works for Atlanta representatives. But we are going to continue to follow this and stream this as well. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Young Thug got a plea deal, y'all. Young Thug taking a plea deal. Young Thug about to snitch on himself. Young Thug snitching on himself. I guess it don't matter now, huh?
And Mr. Williams. Mr. Ford was also a friend of Mr. Williams. On March 12th, the day after, there was a shootout near the Cleveland Avenue area.
The Cleveland day?
A shooting by a YSL associate of Stephen Harris and YFN territory occurred, and a YFN member was shot in the head. March 11th through March 14th, there were a number of social media posts going back and forth between members of YSL and YFN. One of them was a post by Shannon Stillwells. We ain't the only ones who ain't gonna be trying.
Using this shit. They be trying on the ground, going back and forth, and they use all
After
that shit.
A posting was made by Mr. Watts picturing him, Mr. Shamel Drinks, and Mr. Jasper Walters. On March 14, 2022, after YSL members spotted Mr. Drinks at a gas station, Mr. Drinks was gunned down as he drove away from the gas station and waited at a red light.
Let's go check it out.
Later, Mr. Stillwell, Mr. Nichols, Mr. Garlington, and Mr. Farley were all charged with the murder. That is one of the acts that we are still would anticipate the court seeing the evidence of during the course of this trial. After grand jury warrants were issued after this indictment for Mr. Williams and 27 other co-conspirators, following searches of phones, wiretaps and other information that led police to understand the role that Mr. Williams played in the YSL street gang and enterprise. Mr. Williams' home, he was arrested at his home and a search warrant was executed inside his home. While at his home, a sale amounts of illegal narcotics, including those that he is charged with in this indictment, was found. Also found was the machine gun with which the defendant has been charged in this indictment. The gun had a switch. The narcotics included marijuana, codeine, and cocaine. And inside the home were also other guns besides the gun with the switch. The items were seized, and again, Mr. Williams was subsequently arrested, along with other YSL members at Mr. Williams' home. Your Honor, that is the evidence that I believe has been shown throughout the course of this trial and that the state would continue to show. There are several messages between Mr. Huey and Mr. Williams inside the cell phone one of the cell phones that were recovered from Mr. Huey. Besides the messages about tells Mr. Williams he has a new number. Mr. Huey asked Mr. Williams, hey, my brother, I'm fucked up. You ain't got nobody I can pull up on and have something in my pocket. Mr. Williams responds, slat. Let me call BEO. Mr. Huey responding, slat, I need you, my brother. Mr. Huey saying, asking whether or not a lawyer was going to go and talk to another YSL associate.
I'm fucked up. I need some money.
So I guess, yeah, because that means they're asking him, right?
Yeah,
So now you're funding
Mr.
this thing.
Huey
This
had
nigga's got everything on
accused
sex. Like, this is why you
armed
put it.
robbery.
Like, there's nothing's a secret
Once
anymore. They can access everything
Mr.
from the
Huey
tweets
responded
and shit that you talking
for
about.
the number.
You know what I'm saying? Trolling back and forth, acknowledging the
Mr. Williams
situation,
responded.
the text
"Slat."
messages, phone calls. It's just like,
After Mr. Williams stole a star ring from one of the victims in the indictment, he asked Mr. Williams, do you have a star ring? Mr. Williams said, yes. Mr. Huey said, slat, you can't cash out me $500 so I can make a payment to my lawyer. Mr. Williams responded, slat. Mr. Huey sent him his phone number. Mr. Williams assured him through his responses, slat, that he would take care of them. Throughout Mr. Huey's phone, you see messages of this nature between Mr. Huey and Mr. Williams. The court.
Somebody said
will hear
45
that,
years. What?
As this trial.
No,
We don't know
continues.
yet. We don't know yet.
The recommendation
we still
that
need-
the
I'm
state
not saying
previously
for
made prior to us reaching this point was made with the hope that Mr. Williams would agree to certain special conditions of probation that we asked him to adhere to, and that he would take ownership and responsibility for being the leader of YSL. Given that those negotiations have broken down, we are asking that the court sentence Mr. Williams as we have asked earlier. And prior to the court imposing a sentence, we would ask that Ms. Shawana Evans, who is the mother of Mr. Thomas, be allowed an opportunity to make an impact statement. And that is all that we have unless the court has questions.
Whoa. So breaking news, y'all. Breaking news. The plea deal that Young Thug was working on was going to give him probation. Young Thug could have came home today on probation, y'all. Young Thug could have came home today on probation. But the district attorney said the negotiations broke down. He didn't want to agree to the terms of the probations. And because that negotiation broke down, the prosecutor is now asking the judge to sentence him to the amount of time that she requested the first time. So that could be 25 years, that could be 10 years, that could be 15 years, it could be 8 years. But we just heard out of the district attorney's mouth that he could have came home on probation. How the fuck did you fuck that up?
Well, I mean, it may not have been terms of what the probation are, but it's the terms to get probation. So if you're going to get probation, and that's going to be like the lightest touch, then you have to like pretty much bend over and spread them. And he probably was like, nope.
He probably was going to get 15 to 20 years on probation.
Yeah, but you probably got to say it a little bit more. You got to admit to some things probably in order to get this.
Well, you got to admit to all this.
Yeah.
But he probably would have get 20 years probation. Then he got a drug test, pay out. What was the terms of that of the probation that made him turn it down?
Listen, if you guys are going to give me 20
that's what I want to know.
Jail versus 20 years probation, I'll do the 20 years in jail.
You rather do 20 years in jail? Hell no.
No, listen to his lifestyle. He's a rap artist. Then deal around with people like it's just too much. We laugh at people when they go in jail and come out and they back hang with felons and doing all the same shit. He probably like, no, I'll take the time.
Bro, I'd rather do the probation. How did he fuck that up, y'all? I want to know.
For some dudes, obviously it's hard for some people to stay out of trouble. And if you know you're a person that associates with trouble, because all of the homies are troublemakers. So, and it's going to be hard for you to separate yourself in this industry in order to continue to make money. I'll take the time. This is a setup.
Let's see how much time he get, y'all. Let's see how much time he get.
Okay, well, given that Mr. Williams is not charged with the murder of Mr. Thomas, I don't think that is applicable here.
I checked on that, Your Honor, with respect to count one. As a co-conspirator, Mr. Williams is responsible for all of the acts of the other co-conspirators, the overt acts. The overt act of the murder of Donovan Thomas is one of those acts.
I know, and this trial is not complete, and so y'all have not yet proven that. Not to mention that he dismissed the murder charge against one of the co-defendants who already fled, so.
Not for that case, Your Honor, that was Mr. Drinks.
Okay.
We have not dismissed any.
All right, well, if there is a conviction on the RICO or murder count following the close of this trial, that would be the appropriate time for the impact statement to be made.
But she does
All
have
right,
a point.
Mr. Steele or Mr. Adams,
But it's about
does the
proof.
defense want to?
She's got to make that
anything on the
decision.
record?
She tried to sneak in the murder, y'all.
She did.
She tried to sneak in a murder, y'all.
Because I believe what she's saying. I just believe he's initially responsible. But she can't do her job. So we'll see when she brings it back.
Stated many pieces of evidence and then took liberty that is the state's theory. Mr. Williams has tendered a no contender plea to the RICO conspiracy count. And in that count, there are several overt acts.
Somebody said I would
And the
not
first
take a plea
one,
from this circus office.
Your Honor,
You are the winner. I can't believe.
it's on September 9th, 2013. And I won't go through every one because it might take a long time, but just
Somebody
for
said I know the head of the Black Disciples. His name
completeness
is
of
Satan.
this, the court knows. Mr. Williams is driving a car. There is a dash cam video of the stop. The officer who testified at the trial 11 years later, the case was a gun was found under the passenger seat. Mr. Williams is not tied to the gun. He's not convicted of that. And the dash cam video that the officer said would have picked up sound as well as definitely video was never turned over to us, supposedly lost, could not explain the loss. The armed robbery in another overt act of Mr. Dodson, D-O-D-S-O-N, has has the following information. The state only, because we haven't called witnesses yet. So the state put up a man who said nothing except, "I don't recall." And then they put in his prior recorded jail calls. That man was taken, his name was Mr. Bean, B-E-A-N. He was taken to Grady Hospital and he was spoken with by a detective. The state vehemently accused me of lying to the jury, that the man never went, Mr. Bean was never taken to Grady Hospital, and that somehow I planted on him to say something on a recording where he said, the reason I implicated Jeffrey Williams is because the police told me that it would be easier for me. Then I had to go through the CAD reports and show that Mr. Bean was in fact taken to Grady Hospital, and Mr. Bean on recording told Detective Quinn, who of course told the truth. Yes, when I spoke to the detective previously, I did lie. Then what the state doesn't tell the jury is that there's another man in the car. He is shot at the scene, he's arrested, he pled guilty. His name is Fred Prethro, P-R-E-T-H-O. And Mr. Prethro is in the Georgia State Prison System, easy to find. Mr. Prethro was in Grady Hospital also, unfortunately suffering from a gunshot wound. And you can hear the medical equipment behind him. And Detective Williams came in and was recording the whole conversation and said how many people were in the car. And Mr. Prethro names the people. Adrian Bean, who's the gentleman just said, himself, and Walter Murphy. Are you sure they weren't a fourth person in the car? No, the three of us. The state doesn't call that person. The state does call Detective Williams. So I wanted to ask and inquire on that. The state, to obstruct, if that's obstruction, asked the predecessor court to prohibit me from getting into the fact of any conversation that would have impeached another witness. It's fine. Fred Prethro is on my witness list as well as a detective, and I have the recordings. In addition to that, Walter Murphy gave a statement while in the hospital, and his statement is very interesting. It's two different police reports, signed the same date, which is September 11th of 2013, and on the first 7 lines of the police report, they're identical. Then all of a sudden, when it gets to
What?
on the right-hand police report, it says Mr. Murphy stated that there were 3 people, I believe, I have to go back, in the vehicle. On the other police report, it states Mr. Murphy stated there were 4 people. There's no reason that they should be different. They're both signed the same. The state doesn't call that officer at all. I tried to ask Mr. Murphy about it. The state objects, and the predecessor judge sustained the objection. Mr. Williams was not involved in the Mr. Dotson. Miss Bennett, that was Mother's Day, May 12, 2013. She reports allegedly an armed robbery. The detective who testified here and investigated it stated he never took out arrest warrants from Mr. Williams. And he wrote his police report, Miss Bennett is not truthful. That is the case that the state is talking about. The state then, there was Brady evidence that they don't turn over, and we find out about it in court after they arrest Miss Bennett because they say she's not cooperating, and it comes out that she told the prosecution over and over again that this did not happen the way that she reported it, and she doesn't remember. As to Donovan Thomas, and Mr. Williams has nothing but empathy, sympathy, and sorrow. They were friends. It is a lie. What the prosecution put before this jury is a lie. What happened here is the prosecution comes up with a theory because they need a motive, they think. I know you don't need a motive in reality to prove a murder case or any other case, but they wanted a motive. So they made it where Mr. Williams and a gentleman named Rich Homie Kwan, his name is Mr. Lamar, he's a performer, and Mr. Williams and Mr. Lamar were close. There are public documents, recordings, Mr. Lamar being interviewed almost every year, and then he talks about his time with this band or group called the Rich Gang, and he says every year up to this past year, he died, we can't call him as a witness, how close he is to Mr. Williams. The state, though, made it in this case, or tried to make it, that Mr. Williams and Rich Homie Kwan are enemies because Rich Homie Kwan will not sign with a record label that has nothing to do with Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams doesn't sign that record label. That record label is owned by a gentleman named Brian Williams, also goes by the Birdman, wildly successful. He started Drake's career. He started Mr. Dwayne Carter, performer known as Lil Wayne's career. He started Nicki Minaj's career, just fabulous, powerful person, well respected in the industry. But the state wants it to be that Donovan Thomas interceded and would not let Rich Homie Quan sign to Mr. Brian Birdman Williams. And that is the reason that Jeffrey Williams had a feud and killed Donovan Thomas. Your Honor, what the evidence would really show if we kept going through trial, and I can tell you that Mr. Adams and I never thought we'd be in front of this honorable court. We always thought it would go all the way through trial. Was the state is saying that Rich Homie Quan and Jeffrey Williams don't speak since the fall, and they have a bad relationship the fall of 2014. We would have shown, and we served on the state, December 15, 2014, Jeffrey Williams in a private plane with Mr. Lamar, Rich Homie Quan, and they are high-fiving and laughing with each other. That is on audio video. There's a man who the state hasn't called yet, Mr. Martinez Arnold, also known as Duke. It's on the state's witness list, represented by the Honorable Ashley Merchant. He's on that plane as well. He would identify the item, and he would testify that Mr. Williams and Mr. Lamar were very close in December 2014. Then on December 29th of 2014,
Can't believe
Mr. Williams, Mr. Rich Homie Quan, Mr. Arnold, others were at Brian Williams' home in Miami, Florida. There's a posting by Mr. Lamar and Homie Quan and a picture of Mr. Arnold and Mr. Lamar, and they said, Mr. Lamar said, "This is my number
right
one
here
man
in the name
or
of
something to that
still
effect.
hoping
We
that
wouldn't
love bar.
put that
So please,
to
say
evidence.
this. You're
In
like
addition
41
to
years
that,
old. You have
on
seen
December
and heard a
8th, 2 days
zillion
before
scenarios.
Mr. Thomas got
All that happens is that
Mr.
Mr.
Williams
his
was
girl
with Mr. Thomas, as well as Mr. Sledge and Brian Williams, and Brian
Right where they
Williams tour
stand. Yeah,
bus
that's what they
outside of fabulous
what they
artist,
he was saying.
Mr.
I
Cliff
said,
Harris,
he won't tell
T.I.'s
that.
studio,
She said she
and
don't
at
wanna
that
say.
time, they were very close. But you
I was
also
like, she
have
was, when she came to me and stuff, she was
Detective
like, a
with the
little
gang,
upset, because she was like,
Detective
I
Underwood.
don't feel like
I
I
asked
told
her,
her she missed
within the
her
last
birthday. She
2
was
weeks
like,
or 3 weeks,
told me. So she was like,
did
oh,
you
I just
do any, and she was on
decided
it
that
again
being
the
funny.
entire time, including today.
When I
And
talked
she,
to her,
I
she was
asked her,
like,
do you have any
I
evidence
thought I told her.
about
I
Mr.
know,
Williams and Mr. Thomas being close friends? And she said, yes, of course I knew. I said, how about in January of 2015, close to the time of Mr. Thomas's death? She said, yes, they were close
But
friends.
they twinning for
Mr.
Halloween.
Michael Sprinkle, he's a deputy district attorney in the Fulton County DA's office. He has a recording with Mr. Treadwell. You've heard the name O.G. Bentley. And in that, they're going through the evidence. And Mr. Treadwell is important because he has a child, two actually, with Mr. Thomas's sister, his family. And Mr. Sprinkle states this is 2018, this is after the rental car, this is after all of the interviews of Mr. Copeland, this is after the interviews of Mr. Zachary. Mr. Sprinkle's in some of those interviews with Mr. Zachary. Mr. Sprinkle on tape, on recording, states, I do not know why anybody thinks Jeffrey Williams is involved in this killing. He and Donovan Thomas were close friends. It makes no sense to anyone. And Mr. Williams was never arrested, never charged, even in this, as the court just noted, with anything to do with Donovan Thomas's, God forbid, killing. In addition to that, Donovan Thomas has a place that he used to stay with a group of people on Auburn Avenue. Jeffrey Williams performed and did a music shoot there to try to help other people who are suffering in poverty to get out and to be able to be seen and to broadcast their music. Jeffrey Williams does that for everybody because he comes, Your Honor, from the struggle of total poverty, seeing people killed. He saw his brother die right in front of him, and the law enforcement, I'm not blaming anybody, everybody's on edge. The law enforcement would not get any help for him because there are all these people around. It is just, what Mr. Williams has gone through is wrong for everyone. It's not just Mr. Williams, it's a whole community, but he's trying to get people out of poverty and out of that community. I have been with Mr. Williams where we have gone to speak with children together, and he tells them, don't be a rapper. Be like Brian, be a lawyer, keep in school. He tells his children, get your education. His family, his whole being, Your Honor, is trying to break the chains of poverty for others, and it has been spun in this courtroom with false statements and allegations against Mr. Williams at every turn. In addition to that,
appreciate it.
Your Honor, the state talks about the fact that
is he gonna walk free
Mr.
out?
Williams takes people to Miami. You would have heard evidence if we went forward. I put all these people on my witness list. Not one person on my witness list
No, I want to see the Diddy trial.
has
That's the
been
one I want to
interviewed by law enforcement.
see. That's gonna be a fucking.
They have investigated this case for 15 years. They haven't interviewed all these people. The Sprinter van that you heard about, that was already booked days before. Going to Miami, Florida, Mr. Williams and Mr. Brian Birdman Williams, they did a video shoot for a music video. If anybody would have gone further with the expert for the state, they would have seen that Mr. Williams' cell phone does not contact any of the co-defendants that are named here in Miami, and Mr. Williams stays at a separate location than any of those persons. He would always take people who can't afford it on airplanes, on buses, on tours, to his concerts. He let everyone go because, Your Honor, they never left that area. He wanted to show people you have an opportunity.
Remember, him brought everybody. Remember, he brought the whole world. And fed them to
jobs and security. And I'm not insulting them. They really want their jobs.
You can't. I know you want to bring all this. The money is not fun if you don't have the niggas. You know what I'm saying? Which you don't want them new niggas. You want the ones that
did not wish to work. Mr. Williams would not allow them to work.
My back finally hurts from sleeping on
this. This has all been turned on its head by the state.
Right now.
She
might say, I'll give you 5 years.
That the state has put in Mr. Williams' lyrics.
Watch this. 2 different judges. They bullshit.
She might drop the case. She might say, she might drop it. She might say, I'm dropping it with all charges.
Right. To me, this is not airtight. It's not airtight. So I'm surprised that the plea right. So here,
Young Thug taking a plea, y'all.
Record label and an expert, the Honorable Dr. Eric Nielsen, to talk about how Mr. Williams writes his music. His music is then changed around and learned. Mr. Williams, some of the lyrics you just heard are not even uttered by Mr. Williams. The state has no idea when these lyrics were made. Some of them were made before the shooting of Donovan Thomas, that the state is saying this applies to the Donovan Thomas killing with the Tahoe. They are so far afield of where we need to be when we are trying to, God forbid, take somebody's liberty, Your Honor. The state is talking about things like F the judge and I read my life for real. That's not even said by Mr. Williams, but they don't care to find out. They are on a tunnel vision to try to convict a man who should not be convicted. The statement about I never killed nobody, but I got something to do with that body. If the state just bothered to talk with anybody, that is a Nicki Minaj song with Jeffrey Williams. It is written by Nicki Minaj. That is on the text messages I gave, not the text message, the
multiple people
Instagram or Twitter rather.
Because I really thought they wrote their own shit.
That is out well before this, but the state doesn't care. This is out in 2015 or 16 or 17 or 18, I can't remember, I think 18, where Mr. Williams is asked who wrote anybody, and his response is anybody was written by Nicki Minaj, and it was, but it was really written and sung. It's a takeoff of a song by Tupac. There's a song that it parallels, which is an inspiration. But here we are with the state. Also, I never killed nobody, but I got something to do.
No, I like him because he does his research.
Comes up, it's a truancy bot.
That's all you have to do. You got the best researcher as a lawyer, so that you could debunk the argument.
The best researcher for it. The best lawyer is a researcher.
But a good researcher. Yes, and you have. That's why they pull up habeas corpus, such as you know what I'm saying, and people go like,
the state
gotta be out here, gotta be in the. Go back to the
leader
law
of the
books, looking at
YSL
these laws
criminal
that are
street gang, who's been involved from 2012 until his arrest, and even
She
according to
wrote
the
the
state
song,
law,
which
we
was
said
inspired by
they
Tupac.
never even tried to wiretap his
But I
phone.
thought it was
It might have been
because
because
he's
they don't
referring
really
to
know
how
what his phone
far
number
she
is.
has not
So
looked
all
into
these
his Twitter.
communications are being told
Only
about
for him to
Mr.
say this is how
I'm
far
not so
he's
sure the state could have gotten anybody to say that's Mr. Williams' phone. This is how the trial has gone for us. But we sit here for almost 2 years
Right.
since we did our jury selection initiation on January 4th, 2023. Mr. Williams has been sitting in jail since May 9th,
You guys have not come up,
2022.
in my
This is
opinion.
2.5 years
I know the background story, but in my
for
opinion,
the conclusion of the
it's
state's
hard.
case and a verdict from the jury, and that's why he is tendering this plea. I'm telling the court this, and the court knows when you came out the first time, it's very hard for Mr. Williams. I'm not supportive of what we're doing right now. I'm not against it. But I told Mr. Williams that I think we're winning the trial and we should go to verdict.
I
But
feel like
he
that
told
too.
me I can't wait another 3 months if there is any possibility I could go home because I have children that are hurting. I have things to do, and he has some medical issues that he would like to tend to. He eats out of a bag, Your
Oh,
Honor.
no.
He eats processed food only. He gained 75 pounds during trial. He's lost it since. But it is hard. You know, for me, it's only 3 more months. It's enjoyable, actually. I enjoy coming. It's not that enjoyable for Mr. Webb. He told me he wakes up.
He's got
He wakes up every day, and it's another day in HE. Point. Your Honor,
Another
the
damn.
state is talking about,
He
in this
laughing
case,
because that
they
nigga
put
was
in
skinny as
social
hell
media.
on the outside.
He said, don't tell them niggas I gained 75 pounds.
Duh, he did. He said he's eating out of
That
processed
Mr.
bag.
Williams,
That's
Because he's
noodles.
eating processed food.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
noodles.
Williams.
But he basically said,
Right.
but he telling them, don't tell them. Say, don't tell my gained 75.
Right, because the
$24 million.
opposite. His weight is not in
Word for
jeopardy. He
hire
actually
on
put
the
that
person.
shit on here. When we seen his videos,
That's a lot
all
of
his
money.
music, he's skinny as hell. He looks the healthiest he's
It's a
ever fucking been.
red
Another 4 to 5
jacket,
months, and that
jacket.
nigga might look like Debo.
Mr. Williams, right above it, there's a picture of a very well-known, very accomplished musical artist who actually had
He looks like a
surgically
completely
implanted
different
in his forehead a pink diamond worth $24 million that day. That's what Mr. Williams was talking about. That's the type of evidence that is coming from the state of Georgia in this case. It is wrong. This is all wrong. And I know we're pleading guilty, and I know we're pleading nolo, and I know we're asking this honorable court for a certain sentence, and we'll get to it with the court's permission. But this is the type of evidence that there is. But it is holding this man hostage.
Until you figure it the fuck out.
That's not really what we're supposed to do, district attorney time, in the state of Georgia or anywhere. The state then, because I opened on that, then they never bothered to put in all of the chats. Why did it take me to read the chats? In addition to that, going back to Donovan Thomas, talk about Mr. Williams involved, the state did a geofence. A geofence tracks his devices. It doesn't have to be a phone. It could be an iPad.
Little Dirk better hire still.
Electronic device that targets and is used. You don't have to be on the phone. It's the contact. If he has an app open, it'll cap.
If Little Dirk smart, he hire Brian Steele, yeah. If Little Dirk is smart, I'm hiring Brian Steele as my lawyer. I'm reaching out to Brian Steele ASAP, and I want him to be my lawyer.
Sure. And the state targeted the McDonald's, where they keep saying that
This
Mr.
nigga
Williams
had
met
all
people
hands
there.
on deck, including
They
him.
targeted the
And that's what's
barbershop.
fucking
If
him.
anybody can make magic, it'll be
And they
him.
targeted.
Yeah, but the difference is like he's saying, oh, he stay
Location,
away,
yeah,
he
two
do
locations.
this, you know, oh,
And
I'm down and
it comes
I
out.
so it looks like, okay, you're giving them money. There's the state is
It's
saying
when
you're
these devices are
funding
not-
these
it's
murders,
exculpatory.
funding this,
I don't get
but
that.
for the text messages,
I got
he's
that.
trying to
that
help
interview
people, blah, blah, blah.
Lieutenant
You get what I'm
Cranston,
saying?
and the
Little
results-
Dirk,
the motion for that, they just can't find it. That is
Little
great
Dirk is
evidence.
like,
It would have also shown
are you around the corner? Like, that was like a little bit deeper.
from his house after getting the call that I'll talk about from Demise McMullen. He's not with these other people. And the expert for the state, the FBI agent, who does the telephone analysis, Mr. Williams' phone does not ping off the same tower as a Demise McMullen or a Mr. Copeland or a Mr. Garlington or whomever. The state of Georgia has misrepresented for 2 years in front of this jury. They have hidden evidence. They have violated Brady.
Somebody said what?
Take Remy
They
Ma.
have falsely accused Mr. Williams.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Saying that Mr. Williams gets that call 7 minutes after, the state said 6, it was 7 minutes after the killing of Donovan Thomas from Demise McMullen. Mr. Williams was already out of his home. Mr. Demise McMullen's calling Mr. Williams, he's not even there. He's going down to meet with Mr. Kelvin Treadwell, also known as O.G. Bentley. O.G. Bentley was supposed to go to Miami, Florida. They were talking about this deal. And Mr. Williams, that day, he was given another contract. Mr. Williams, by this time, he went from zero money. He is a multi-millionaire at the time. He doesn't need the Cleveland Avenue drug deals for $15. He doesn't need the shootings. He wasn't even living in Atlanta since 2018, 19, 20, 21. He came back at the very end of 21, 6 months, and he got arrested in May of 2022. In his house, Your Honor, we have everyone on the witness list. There are 12 people living at that house. Mr. Williams opens up any of the car that he has, he'll rent cars for people, any home he has, he will allow people to live in hotels because people that he knows, unfortunately, are homeless. And he gives them all places to stay,
He's like, yo,
cars
this
to
nigga about
drive.
to come home. Thug about to come home, y'all.
Mr. Williams.
Young Thug about to come home.
I feel like she's.
Right before.
I think she gonna let him
I feel
out.
like she agreed with him. Let's see.
There were other people in that house.
Thug about to come home.
Guns. There were people whose the guns are in their names. They were going to come in court and claim the guns. Everybody else was doing as well, but Mr. Williams has entered a guilty plea. I'm not going back on that, but I just want you to know that this case is just wrong to do to somebody with no bond and to hold him hostage. He wants to, he may not do it. He's aware of that. But the state offered him 15 years on probation, but they keep piling on these conditions. He just said,
the state offered him 15-year probation, and Young Thug denied it. You gotta be kidding me. Young Thug could have been home today. 15 years probation. And he denied it, y'all, because the state kept adding on conditions. You gotta be in the house by 8. You gotta take a drug test. Nigga, it's better than being in jail. These niggas, oh my God. This nigga don't want probation. If this woman don't let him go free, all this shit was for nothing. If this judge don't let Young Thug go free, y'all, all this shit was for nothing. What the fuck you take a plea deal for? If you could have got 15 years probation, Young Thug, you could have got 15. You want to do drugs that bad? This nigga must miss the drugs.
No, or just being out, after party, anything you cannot.
Bro,
people.
I understand, but if you've been in jail for 2 years and you telling your lawyer you want to take a plea because you can't take another day as hell, then you'll take the probation. What do you think this woman gonna give you? You think she gonna give you, let you home, just walk out the courtroom? Get the door. She ain't gonna just let him walk out the courtroom, y'all. I would have took that probation. Damn, if they don't let him go free, he fucked up.
He made up his mind. He said, I'm just gonna go, I gotta get home. Judge may not let me home, but I'm not doing these conditions and admit that I'm the leader and I'm involved in the killing and my music just promoted everybody to do. He's not going to do that.
Any kids out there?
So he did not do that. And that's how
I'm scared people.
the state, the night of the killing, people came to Mr. Williams' home. The state tells the court, he said, lay low. What they don't tell you is right after that, he gave money to Mr. Sledge, who said, I thought they're gonna kill me. They think I did it. And Mr. Williams said, if you have anything to do with it, I don't want to be with you. And Mr. Sledge said, I just need a hotel room with my children and my bride or my significant other to get to. And Mr. Williams said, be safe, lay low. That's the lay low. In addition to that, Mr. Williams told Mr. Copeland's with the police. Hours after the killing of Mr. Donovan Thomas, Mr. Copeland goes to the police department. Mr. Williams is the person who told him to go. Mr. Copeland said, what do? They're shooting at my house, at my family's house.
Kaya, you going too?
Significant other's mother's house. And
you watch movies with me.
With the murder, get out of here. Mr. Copeland denied it. Mr. Williams said, then go tell the police. Mr. Copeland said, you want me to go to the police? And Mr. Williams said, if you had nothing to do with it, they think you did, go to the police. In addition to that, Mr. Copeland said, well, I'm going to retaliate. Mr. Williams told him, don't do that, let 12 handle. That's on recordings. That is on recordings on January 11th of 2015 with Detective Thorpe. Your Honor, as far as Dwayne Carter,
Oh, that's right. Can I see that name today?
Lil Wayne, Mr. Williams had no conflict.
We're going tomorrow,
They are
right?
friends. We were presenting
We're not going
evidence,
to home.
and right before this shooting of the tour bus is April 26th of 2015. Mr. Williams is performing in New Orleans area, and that's the area where it's Holly Grove, where Mr. Carter or Lil Wayne, the former known as Lil Wayne, comes from. And in order to drum up popularity and interest, people get on the internet and they start what's called rap battles, arguments, feuds. That's what happened here, and you would have heard testimony from Mr. Williams' management that they said, start a rap battle. It'll be better for your career. Mr. Dwayne Carter is aware of that. Mr. Dwayne Carter's interview, the state's aware of this. He has interviews after this. Are you mad? What's the real deal with Jeffrey Williams? He states, no. He's great with me. He brought popularity to me. He loves me. He idolizes me, and I love working with him. They did an album together. In 2014, they're in the studio together, making music together. It is all made up that Mr. Williams is involved. Mr. Williams gives a statement. The state refuses to put it in and then stop me, the previous judge, from cross-examining the detective. His name is Racy. He met with Mr. Williams in the DeKalb County Jail on the 15th day of July 2015. Mr. Williams was arrested that day. And there's a long interview. Mr. Williams waives his right to counsel. He tells them, I'm his lawyer. They say, you don't want to speak to us, you don't have to. He said, well, I'll speak with you. And they asked Mr. Williams these questions. What about Lil Wayne's shooting? He said, it was outrageous. I love him. That's my idol. I love Lil Wayne. How about this battle? He says it's promotion. They asked about his rap lyrics. It's the only person that the state ever did anything about rap lyrics with. And they asked Mr. Williams, what about the rap lyrics? And he tells them, it's hyperbole. He didn't use that word. He used the word, it's made up. It's rhyming. It's made up. Not like the state is saying that I rap lyrics for real. That's not even Mr. Williams' utterance. Your Honor, the point I'm trying to make to you is what the state of Georgia presented to this jury in this courtroom the past year has been full of untruths, and they know it. The state says that Mr. Williams had a conflict because he named an album with Dwayne Carter, and Dwayne Carter didn't like that. Dwayne Carter's interview, he said, that was one of the nicest things anyone could have done to me. It shows how much he really appreciates me. It shows respect and honor, and I appreciate what he did. The state knows this. With regards to
Somebody said I'm starting to believe.
Jimmy Winfrey,
Somebody said I'm starting to believe
what the
still.
state did is they put in a recording. It's not Mr. Williams. It's a jail
Somebody
recording.
said, what them white folks know
And an
about
unknown
Twitter?
person. And then unknown person says, when you get out, you're gonna get a Porsche
Clearly.
and $250,000. Mr. Williams not privy to that. The state looked at all of Mr. Williams' bank records, everything. They undressed him financially. There's zero evidence Mr. Williams did anything for Mr. Winfrey. The state tells you that Mr. Winfrey asked for money for a lawyer. The conversation wasn't recorded. It was with Mr. Williams' manager. And Jimmy Winfrey said, I need to show that I was gainfully employed for the court. Can you get me something from YSL? And the manager said, yeah, if we have it, and if it's true, yes, you can have it. That is it. There's no evidence that Mr. Williams paid for anybody's lawyer, Mr. Winfrey or otherwise. In addition to that, Your Honor, the social media postings with Mr. Rashawn Bennett, also known as YFN Lucy. So Mr. Williams, the state tells Mr. Bennett on social media, I would have killed you if I didn't like the way you take care of your mother and children. That is the post. What they don't tell you is Mr. Bennett, who is also, to his credit, trying to drum up his career. Mr. Bennett is picking on Mr. Williams, who's a much higher profile artist than Mr. Bennett at that time. And Mr. Bennett is saying that he slept with Mr. Williams' fiance while Mr. Williams and she are a significant couple, that Mr. Williams' music is awful. Nobody should listen to his music ever. Mr. Williams responds by saying, we can do an album together if you want. Stop this. The man continues of how he's sleeping with Mr. Williams' significant other, and then Mr. Williams responds by saying, I would have killed you except for what you do. That is the context that they don't tell you about. And Mr. Williams did nothing to Mr. Bennett. In fact, the evidence would have shown, if we had time or we would have gone forward, that Mr. Bennett and Mr. Williams are on the red carpet receiving awards in California, sitting right next to each other and taking photographs. This is not the Jeffrey Williams. Jeffrey Williams is a known person who is all over the place. If he did something, somebody wanted him, they can find him. He's not hanging out on Cleveland Avenue. What the state is saying are not true. The situation with Mr. Bennett, so he's in the Fulton County Jail, and he's housed, and there are crazy, sick, violent people, and they're on the phone, and Mr. Myrick, M-Y-R-I-C, is calling other people, supposed co-conspirators. How much will Jeffrey Williams give? He doesn't say that, but that's the theme of it, as well as Christian Eppinger. What the state doesn't tell you is that when Mrs. Sumlin is asked, hey, find out how much Thug will pay me to kill Mr. YFN Lucci, Mr. Sumlin says, I don't know his number. I can't get in touch with him. He doesn't talk to me. And that's because, Your Honor, since 2015, and he means no insult, but Jeffrey Williams has had zero contact with Shannon Stillwell until this case, Kenneth Copeland, Demekian Garlington, Justin Cobb, Demise McMullen, Mr. Sledge, Mr. Murphy, all these people. This is a lie. This is a 100% lie, and that's why we tendered a no plea to being a leader of a criminal street gang. Mr. Williams is not a leader. In fact, if we're going to go forward, on Mr. Huey's phone, there are conversations with Mr. Copeland. And they both say how Jeffrey Williams is a zero and F him. And they don't talk to him, and Jeffrey Williams never does anything for them. Mr. Huey, Mr. Williams met later. He met him closer in the time of 2020. Mr. Huey's father went through a horrible episode that Mr. Williams knew, and that's how Mr. Williams knew his son is Mr. Huey. Mr. Huey's on part-time, and Mr. Huey's making mistakes. And Mr. Huey, supposedly, Mr. Williams believes, armed robbed a man named Chandler Durham.
No.
D-U-R-H-A-M.
I remember.
Mr. Durham is
You
Mr.
remember that
Williams,
girl got sent home?
and he's a fabulous,
Remember,
record.
somebody got sent home from home?
And Mr. Williams
her dress
states-
was too short.
give him back, tell him, give back the property, he's gonna die. The state puts out his
Remember,
over
King
that.
Junior told us.
No one
He was like,
dies,
the girl
the
that
property
leave it,
doesn't
he
get
was like,
returned.
damn,
Mr.
so her
Huey
mama did
ignores
all
Mr.
that, and they got her.
The state told him today that Jeffrey
It wasn't,
Williams
had
said
nothing to do with
Mr.
her.
Huey
Goddamn,
posted
what the fuck out.
that Mr. Wyatt Anucci
I don't
is
think
going
they'll
to
let you
report
in.
on
That's
January
that is.
2020.
Just say it's too
Not
short.
true.
I'm
Mr.
just saying
Huey sent that to whoever
The
the
white
phone
dress is
was.
just like.
And all it says
Let me
is
see that.
slide,
I'm just saying,
Well, I think
because
the
you gotta
right-
remember, she's shorter than you.
that Mr. Bennett was
They're the
supposed to
same height.
perform.
Well, why is it
There's
so
no-
short then?
Shooting.
Pull it
There was no
down.
fight.
I tried, but
There
like
was
this.
nothing to report.
That's how it's made. You can't
There's
now
nothing.
because the sides are swooped up.
In addition,
on
it
the
says
side.
same thing on September
It's
12th,
not made
September
to look
2nd, 2020.
It's made to look like
That's
a
how they're
skirt.
short.
I'm not conceding that with
Right,
Jeffrey
it's made to
Williams,
look
you've been
like
having
a
a conversation with him,
I
but
think
Even if it
that's
was,
cute, but let me see the white
it
one. The
doesn't
white
show
one.
anything. It says, Slatties, lay low. Lay low means don't do anything. Get out of the way. That is what it is. That is Mr. Williams' role. Mr. Williams, there is evidence in the record, and there would have been more. He takes people on tour with him. He takes people to the mall with him. But when they do crime or do things to people, for instance, there was a prostitute, and several people gave that prostitute money, $500. And the prostitute, at the end of the $500, getting $500 from several people, had sex with a person, and then she was armed robbed. So all the money came back. Mr. Williams wasn't involved in that, but he heard about it. He
What
made-
the fuck?
Bitch, that's your
Bro.
fault. You got paid. You supposed to get the fuck.
Did
on.
y'all hear that?
Now she decided to fuck another nigga.
Did y'all hear that?
That's what you get, dummy.
YSL did he just admit to trafficking, sex trafficking?
No, he said that he had nothing to do with it, so he's telling the story.
Yes, but
he said,
he said they gave him the money though, $500.
Right, they gave the girl $500. They paid for sex. They knew they was gonna rob her the whole time, so they all fucking her, give her the money. She thinking she coming up. She fucked one more nigga,
And they robbed her.
boom, dumbass, stick him up.
How you get
They take
robbed?
all the money they done gave you, dumbass. You got fucked for free. Oh man, every chick know. Ask any hoe in the chat. Tell you after you get the coins, you get the fuck on. This is not a friendship. This is a business.
She stayed longer and
They
got robbed.
Thought the niggas liked her and said, okay.
Give me my money back, bitch.
Oh my God, I can't
People
believe that's
find
horrible.
prostitution
What's her name? Put her
illegal
name
every
out.
time. People stole from stores that Mr. Williams found
Look at
out.
a woman's face and did a court report.
He went
She's
to the
like, oh.
stores and he repaid all that. He didn't steal anything. He doesn't need to steal anything. Your Honor, Mr. Williams stands with Elton John. Elton John called Mr. Williams the next coming of John Lennon. Mr. Williams is unbelievable talent. He's not just a rap artist. In fact, when he's interviewed in 2017, he gives a statement and he says, I had to learn rap. He grew up in a house learning other forms of music. He likes all music, but rap hit in his community, and his community raised him. They supported him. They came out to him. They made him get into establishments, and once the establishment saw all the people come out, he got more establishments. Then he went out of that little area in Atlanta to other parts of Georgia, and then to all the neighboring states and throughout our country. And he has performed on every continent but one. He has performed in front of being the headliner, 300,000 people at one time. He has a real life and career. He is not the leader, and he is not worried about buying jewelry that is stolen. Mr. Williams is actually innocent. I'm not trying to corrupt our plea. That's his plea, and he's entitled to it, and he wants it, and he embraces it. But to me, this is a wrongful prosecution. This is outrageous.
All right, so I'm pleading guilty.
I think that looks
I'm
better.
pleading guilty to counts 57 through 62.
It's all true.
Do you
Yes, there's a factual
There's a
basis.
factual basis.
I
for
can
this.
see, yes, I can see that.
She likes it. All right, mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. And Your Honor, I'll answer any of your questions, but the point I'm trying to make is 45 years to serve 25 years in prison, when just this morning, it was a probationary offer. It was a probationary offer. The state knows, but they want to control. They have this theory of.
The state is asking for 25 years in prison, y'all. So that because he didn't take the probation plea, the state is asking 25 years. The state is asking 25 years. So your boy Young Thug could have came home on 15 years probation. Let's see if the judge actually give him the 25 years.
Use it. And they want to stop Mr. Williams.
So the state is asking for 25 years.
Entertaining, just stop his life. That's just not right. And it's wrong of the district attorney in Fulton County to do that. If they offer probation, then he's not a 45 to serve 25 years in custody type of person, and he's certainly not the person that the state has stated in front of the court. What we're asking, Your Honor, on count one, which is the RICO count, to accept the novo contendere plea. Please sentence Mr. Williams to 20 years to serve 5 years in prison commuted to time served. Mr. Williams has served, as I said, 22.5 years. On count 56, Your Honor, that's the leadership of a gang, NOAA plea, 20 years to serve 5 years commuted to time served, consecutive to all other counts. On count 57, which is a gang count, Your Honor, not a leader, guilty plea, 20 years to serve 5 years commuted to time served, concurrent with count one. With regard to count 58, which is possession of, I believe it is.
Still trying to get him time served.
Marijuana with intent to distribute. 10-year sentence on probation, concurrent with count one. On count 59, which is violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act, possession of codeine with intent to distribute, 5 years on probation, concurrent with count one. On count 59, Your Honor, which is violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act, possession of cocaine, 3 years on probation, concurrent with count one. Count 61, 5 years of probation. It's a firearm count, consecutive to the other counts, consecutive to before count 56. And then count 62, 10 years to serve commuted to time served. That should be a total sentence, Your Honor, that we are respectfully requesting the court to consider. I believe it's 45 years to serve 5 years in prison, commuted to time served, 40 years on probation, credit for the time already served and commuted time served. As I said, after 3 years of probation, the probation becomes non-reporting, and after successful completion of 10 years on probation, the balance of the sentence be terminated. Mr. Williams asked the court for house arrest for 3 years as part of the sentence, but house arrest specifically defined that Mr. Williams will be in his home or at any lawful employment, touring, studio, performance, business meetings, and the like. Wear an ankle monitor for the first year and pay the costs of same. And the company must be approved by probation department. And the ankle monitor be affixed within 10 days of hopeful release from custody. Mr. Williams cannot possess a firearm, but he can be around licensed security who are armed or other persons who are lawfully carrying a firearm with a license. And that would be knowingly for Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams can transfer probation outside the state of Georgia. He has residences in the state of California. He has studios in the state of California. Mr. Williams be allowed to travel throughout our country and the world for lawful work-related industries. Mr. Williams wants to perform, he's going to do this anyway, Your Honor, but we made part of the sentence, at least one concert each year at a venue, if they'll have him holding 10,000 people, if that is workable for the venue, and Mr. Williams' management, and he's going to donate all of the profits that he makes to a 501c3 charity. Mr. Williams wants to pledge $100,000 for the next 3 years to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office if they will hold an illegal firearm buyback to buy back firearms that are not supposed to be on our streets. Mr. Williams does not wish to go near the Cleveland Avenue area, not to insult that area at all, but it is just not a good idea under this circumstance. And he can drive on the highway, but otherwise not come within 1 mile of the area that we call Cleveland Avenue, and we could give the exact dimensions of that area. Mr. Williams must perform 100 hours of community service per year for the next 3 years as designated by probation department.
I was just about to say.
Mr. Williams can associate, and this was agreed to previously, with people who are convicted felon or alleged gang members solely for lawful purpose of making music.
I see Ms. Love shaking her head, and I think it's fair to establish that until the entirety of the negotiations were agreed to, it was all up in the air.
Right.
That may have been something that had already hammered out. It's not anything you're bound to. Fair, okay.
I agree with it. Mr. Williams can have no contact with any of the supposed victims, and there was an Exhibit A attached to the state's proposed plea agreement, negotiated plea agreement that was sent to you, so we adopt that Exhibit A, but we can give it to the court if you need those names. And Mr. Williams had no contact with any of the co-defendants in this indictment, with the exception of Mr. Quantavious Greer, that is his biological brother, as well as Mr. Sergio Kitchens. He's a phenomenal artist. He goes perform known as Gunna, G-U-N-N-A. Mr. Williams and Mr. Kitchens are contractually obligated, and they frequently perform music together. Your Honor, any other conditions that this honorable court deems appropriate? I want to thank the court for all your time. Always, I want to thank Ms. Percival for everything she's done. I want to thank Mr. Williams for allowing me to stand with him. I really never thought we would be here, but this is his decision. I want to thank the Honorable Keith Adams, who may want to speak, Your Honor, but I can never imagine a better lawyer than Keith Adams.
Mr. Adams, do you want to add anything to the record?
Your Honor, I don't know that there's really much that Mr. Steele has represented to the court. I think fully and thoroughly the breadth of our knowledge of the case, Mr. Williams' background, and I think the court has not just heard it from Mr. Steele, but has had the opportunity to sit here and hear some of the evidence and kind of get a feel. You've had a chance also to observe Mr. Williams and get a feel for him, his background, and so forth. You know, the only thing I can say about Mr. Williams that hasn't been said is that he comes from an area. You might have heard throughout the course of the trial that there was an album, a concert tour. We came from nothing. And that is true. Mr. Williams came from, you know, I hate to use the word abject poverty, but that really is the case. Came from an area where there was a significant amount of crime, where, as you've heard, he's had tragedy in his life and has observed tragedy in his life. And he has gone through a good bit. He has been involved in a lot, but he has raised himself up. He has done the best he could and has done phenomenally well, and is, I think, an inspiration to a lot of people from that community who look to him and see the success that he has gained and have been fully supportive of him. But he finds himself here. He is in front of you. He is tendering this plea because he accepts responsibility. You have heard everything Mr. Steele has had to say. I can only ask that you follow what we have put before you. You also have, I believe, the paperwork that was given to you by the state, which kind of gives you some idea of what they were looking for as well in terms of conditions. Mr. Williams, if we were to have reached some sort of agreement, and we ask that if you feel that there's anything within the state's proposal that might be appropriate in terms of sentence for Mr. Williams, that the court please feel free to do that. There's nothing that he puts himself before the court. And I think 2.5 years sitting, going through this process, challenging the process, but now standing before you and asking that you consider everything and sentence him appropriately in the way that we've requested. I'd simply ask you, I join Mr. Steele and Mr. Williams in asking you to do the same. And I thank you as well, as Mr. Steele did, for your patience with us and for bringing some order to the proceedings that candidly was needed. That's all I have to say. I thank you again, and I ask you to consider everything that's been put before you.
All right, Mr. Williams, is there anything that you want to say?
Yes, ma'am. I take full responsibility for, my crimes and my charges. I want to say sorry to my family, my mom. My mom got 11 kids. I can say all the names, managers, my kids is not here. Really, everybody that got something to do with this situation, I want to say sorry for just having so much time investing into this,
I heard.
I am a smart guy, I am a good guy, and I really got a good heart, I find myself in a lot of stuff because I was just nice or cool, and I understand that you can't be that way when you reach a certain height because it could end bad, and it don't really have to have nothing to do with you, but it could end bad and it could, fall on you. And I know the choice is yours, it's up to you, and I hope that you allow me to go home today and just trust in me to just do the right thing and never see you again unless it's at a bar in the future or something. Just out of this type of situation, I promise you I won't ever be in this type of situation again. I'm going.
Did this nigga say to the judge that he hope he never see you again unless it's in a bar? Nigga, leave that nigga in jail. This nigga, even the cops laughing. Even the cop, this nigga just said he hope he see the judge in a bar. How the fuck even know the judge drink? What the fuck? What's wrong with these niggas? The whole way to keep.
The way I've learned from my mistakes,
Stop that nigga from talking. He fucking up the case. Why y'all let him talk? Look at the cop. Why y'all stop Thug from talking, man?
It's my life. You are really, truly, honestly, the best thing that has happened because you made everything fair for me and everybody involved on both sides, I'm sorry to share, everybody for just having to put extra time in. I know y'all got to pay more money, but I'm sorry for y'all having to put this extra time in to deal with y'all family, and I just hope that you find it in your heart to allow me to go home and be with my family and just do better as a person. I know
Stop talking.
Bring to the table. I know what I am. I know
Thug fucking up.
heights I've reached. I know.
Just cry, nigga.
People.
He should have cried.
In the community, all people. I learned that late. Like these past 2 or 3 years of my life, I kind of learned that late, and maybe it was because I was probably on drugs or anything. I don't know, but I have came to my senses. I understand what I mean to this world, but I am a good guy. I don't mind doing stuff like free shows, and I always did that. You know, I did free shows and gave it to single parents, millions of dollars. You know, I made $1.8 million on a free show, and I gave it all to single parent charity. And I did like 2 or 3 shows that made like $700,000 a piece, and I gave it to the breast cancer organization. Like, you know, I do things. I put millions of dollars back into my community for real. I really did. I did more than anybody ever did from my side, you know. But I understand, you know, rap lyrics. I understand how it can be twisted. I understand what it can do to the mind of people. I understand all that, and I promise you, I'm 100% changing that. You know, it's just, I'm older, I'm grown now, you know, and it's just like,
You grown in 2
more
years.
things to rap about. Like, I've experienced a lot of good things. I experienced more bad things, but I experienced a lot of good things too. And anyway, I can go.
Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate that you do realize how much of an impact you have on people. I mean, it's past your neighborhood, it's worldwide, especially young people. And having come up from where you came up from and living in and around that, you know that gangs are damaging to our community. And it may be that a whole lot of rap music and the rap industry is, I mean, honestly, it sounds like a modern day version of kind of WWE wrestling that used to be on television, where people would just get up and posture and act like they hated each other. And it may be that that's a lot of what is going on in the music industry with rap. But whether it is fake or not, it has tremendous impact on kids and young people who think, this is cool, this is what I want to do, look at him, he's a millionaire, I can do that by being, you know, a gangster in the streets. And that's not true. What you're likely to have happen to you if you're a gangster in the streets is you get shot, you get killed, or you get thrown in prison. And those are, you know, by far the most likely outcomes. And, you know, you've been in here watching the trial, and you've seen the pictures of Mr. Ryan posing with a gun as big as he is at 15 years old and going out and shooting and killing another teenager. And that's what gangs do, and that's unfortunately a lot of what rap music does. And if you are a modern day John Lennon, you know, I mean, he might have rapped too in this day and age, I don't know, but I know you're talented, and even if you choose to continue to rap, you need to try to use your influence to let kids know that that is not the way to go, and that there are ways out of poverty besides hooking up with the powerful guy at the end of the street selling drugs.
So that's what you're doing for tomorrow?
And,
Oh, Autumn didn't come
you
over.
know, I know that happens for protection sometimes, but a much better way would be getting an education and setting, you know, hang around with people who set a good example. And you be one of those people that sets a good example. I mean, all right, so that's my high horse on that. I could also go on. But I want you to try to be more of the solution and less of the problem. All right. All right, so it is not lost on the court that the state, had they been able to come to agreement on certain special conditions, was willing to entirely dismiss the RICO count, was willing to entirely dismiss one of the gang counts, and was willing to entirely dismiss this, you know, machine gun count. Was willing to give a sentence that permitted Mr. Williams to walk out of the door today, and therefore does not seem to be particularly worried that Mr. Williams, if on the streets, would be a danger to society. I'm taking that into consideration and crafting my sentence. And in permitting a NOLO plea to the RICO count in one of the two gang counts, I would not be permitting the NOLO to the one if you were not pleading guilty to at least one of them. But you are, and y'all admit a factual basis for the counts that you are pleading guilty to. I find there to be a factual basis for those counts, and for the remaining counts with which you are charged. I am going to impose a sentence, and I've taken a little bit of the suggested special conditions from the defense and a little bit of the special conditions suggested by the prosecution. On count one, the court sentence is 20 years to serve 5 years, commuted to time served, the balance of 15 years to be probated, and a $25,000 fine. On count two, the sentence is 5 years to serve, commuted to time served. That's the minimum sentence that's permitted on that count. It is required to be run consecutively. I'm going to run it consecutive to count one, but I am going to backload. Oh, I'm sorry, that is not commuted. That is 5 years to serve, and it's going to be run consecutively to count one, backloaded, by which I mean after you serve your 15 years of probation, if you have been successful on that probation, and I sincerely hope that you are, then at the end of that 15 years, I will commute the entire rest of any service portion of your sentence to time served. So I'll get to the end of it and give you the total sentence, but I'm also going to impose a $15,000 fine with regard to that count. Count 57, 20 years to serve 5, commuted to time served, the balance of 15 years probated, concurrent with count 1. Count 58, 10 years to serve 5, commuted to time served, balance probated, concurrent with count 1. 59, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1. 60, 5 years to serve, commuted to time served, concurrent with count 1.
He coming home.
Count 61, 5 years to serve, that is required to be also a consecutive sentence, so that's going to be run consecutively to count 56 and backloaded. Count 62, 10 years to serve, also required to be served consecutively, that's going to be consecutive to count 61, also backloaded. So essentially, the total sentence is 40 years to serve the first 5 years in prison, but commuted to the time that you have already served, followed by 15 years on probation, followed then by the backloaded 20 years, which can be served in custody and will be served in custody if you are not successful on your probation. If you are successful in completing your 15 years probation, that will be commuted to time served.
He wasn't betting on that. He trying to control his kids. That's
Bro,
crazy. 40.
Listen, if I was him, bro, I might have just stuck the trial out, bro.
Yeah.
If I was your boy Young Thug, I might have just stuck the trial out. Cause even though he coming home, this nigga got to do 15 years probation, my nigga.
So what am I? Because I don't understand this.
On each charge, they giving him a 5 to 20. The least he could do is 5. The most he could do is 20. But she's giving him time served.
For what? That was 4 years.
He just did 2.
2. Okay.
So he just did 2 years. So for that charge, she's giving him time served. When she could have really made him go back and do the other 5. So each charge, she's giving him time served, time served, time served, time served.
So in all actuality, how much time is he sitting in jail?
He's doing 2. He did 2 years. He's doing 2 years, but he's getting probation 15 years. If he fuck up, he's got to do that.
This is all probation.
No, he just did the 2 years.
Okay.
So he got found guilty of 4 counts.
Okay.
4 counts, but they gave him a 5 to 20. The least you could do is 5. When you do 85 in state jail, 85%. So if you got a 5 year, you're gonna do 2.5 years, 2 and some change.
Okay.
You're gonna go parole. They let you out after 2 years. You good behavior. So they know he's already had good behavior. He's been in PC by himself.
Mhm.
So he's getting time served for each charge.
But the probation is what's
But the probation is what's heavy because now you're gonna get the 15 years probation. And like she said, if you fuck up, you're gonna do that whole 15 years in jail.
Well, wasn't the first one?
And this is why
20 years probation.
No,
And he will walk out today.
no, she tried to give him 15 years. That was the plea, 15 years probation.
Okay.
But she had worse stipulations
Right,
than what he
that's why
had.
he said
So
he
think
did.
about if still had them conditions that he said. Imagine what the conditions she had.
Right.
He said he can still travel. She probably was like, no, you can't travel. You can't do this. No,
Okay.
you can't do.
Right.
So she probably had worse
Or not
conditions.
logical for a man.
And he's like, yo, this is what he worked
Me up
to
to go
do.
back to jail.
But 15 years sets you up to go back to jail. If you do anything within that 15 years, my nigga, anything. I'm talking about you. If you get into a domestic violence fight with your girl, my nigga.
So you shouldn't be doing.
I'm just saying
Right.
you should, my nigga. I'm just saying it's so 15 years, my nigga. You can't do nothing, my nigga. You could get into something at a concert and somebody gonna test you. And then now you looking at going back to jail for 15 years.
Right, shit, don't fail the test.
So that's why Brian's still saying I really don't like this plea. Because I feel like we got these jurors so fucked up on the edge that, bro, you could be coming home with nothing. Nothing. Even though you coming home right now, you did your time, you still got these people on your back for 15 years. And now they gonna want to fuck with you more. Because they know if they get you, you go to jail for 15 years. I don't know if I would have did that, Thug. I don't know if I would have did that, Thug. I might have. You got these niggas on their back.
I know. To me, it sounds easy. But
And then
that don't have that
you got these niggas on their back though. But he is about to come out and make millions though. He about to be one rich motherfucker now.
You are to remain on reporting status for the first half of your probation, active reporting for the first 7.5 years of your probation, and that is pursuant to OCGA 17-10-1 subsection 2A. And Mr. Steele and Mr. Adams, in order to keep him on reporting status, there needs to be good cause shown.
It's your life on the line.
We all can see the good cause is shown here. All right, I appreciate that. Special conditions of your probation.
Can I have a second?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right. You had enough time to talk with your attorneys?
Yes.
Okay. All right, special conditions of your probation. After 48 hours from your release, you are to stay away from the metro Atlanta area, and that's defined by the U.S. Census Bureau. It may change, but you can look that up anytime to figure out what that is. For the first 10 years of your probation, subject to the following exceptions. You are permitted to be in the metro Atlanta area to attend any wedding, funeral, or graduation from high school, college, or graduate school of any of your immediate family members. And immediate family members is defined the same way that you all were contemplating it when you were negotiating. You can get here up to 24 hours prior to any such event, and you need to leave within 48 hours after any such event.
This nigga can't even be in Atlanta, y'all. This nigga can't even be in Atlanta. Part of his plea agreement, this nigga can't be in Atlanta.
Don't sound too bad. I'm not
My
coming
nigga,
back to this motherfucker.
My
No
nigga,
worries, Judge.
I ain't never think about
coming
that. I never heard a nigga get kicked out of the city, my nigga. Bro, I've never heard a motherfucker get kicked out of the city. The judge just banned this nigga from Atlanta, my nigga. This nigga can't come to Atlanta. God damn.
In addition, during each year of your probation, I'm going to require that you come to the metro Atlanta area and make a live anti-gang and anti-gun violence presentation 4 times a year, each year of your probation, at a grade school, a middle school, a boys or girls club, anything like that, that type of group. And if you want to, that presentation can include a benefit concert, and these presentations may count towards your required community service hours, which I'm going to impose, that during each year of your probation, you perform 100 hours of community service. You are, and this is required by the fact that there's a gang conviction. You shall not knowingly have contact of any kind or character with any other member or associate of any criminal street gang. Exception to that, if your brother is a member of any street gang, I hope you talk him into getting out of it. Quantavious Greer, and then also Sergio Kitchens, as long as you are contractually obligated to him. That is going to include anybody who is named in this indictment, except as absolutely necessary to conduct the lawful business of your musical career, and to any extent that the state is not agreeing to the exception for Mr. Kitchens. In the event that that part is not enforceable because it is only a portion of a special condition, going to provide that that be severable from the rest of this, and I'll put some case sites in the Senate sheet for that. You are in no way to promote any criminal street gang or any criminal street gang activity, including on any social media platform. You are not to utilize any hand signs, terminology, or language that promotes any criminal street gang. You are not to participate in any criminal street gang activity. You are not to knowingly engage in any contact with any of the victims that are listed in this indictment or with any of their family members. And you may not have in your possession or with arm's reach any kind of a firearm because you're going to be a convicted felon. And that is, except I know that you have security and you need security. You can be within arm's reach of a firearm that is in possession of either licensed law enforcement or licensed security personnel that are in your security detail or anybody that you're performing with. You are to submit to random drug screens and not use any drugs unless they are prescribed for you by a licensed physician. You are to execute a Fourth Amendment waiver that will permit the search of your person, residence, vehicles, and electronics for any firearms, any criminal street gang paraphernalia, or any illicit drugs. And as I mentioned, with regard to one of the first of your co-defendants from this trial, at least since I've been involved, to plead guilty, our Uniform Superior Court rules instruct and provide that it is absolutely proper for a judge to grant leniency in sentencing when, quote, the interest of the public and the effective administration of criminal justice are served, unquote. And I think that this plea is in the interest of the public and in the interest of effective administration of justice. Have been trying to ensure that to the extent I can, this trial also abides by that. It's been challenging at certain times. I find your plea to be freely, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily entered with an understanding of the consequences, and I accept it as such. I also need to inform you that your attorneys are going to represent you through either the last day of this term of court or 30 days from now, whichever is later, and any of the filings that were mentioned that need to be filed within that time, they would file on your behalf unless they are permitted to withdraw from representing you before that time. I am not going to impose the conditions suggested by your counsel about the benefit concerts and the donations to the sheriff's office, but I certainly strongly encourage you to do those things. and to do and continue to do things that benefit your community and especially help young people to stay out of criminal trouble. And unless there is anything from council other than that,
I have one matter, Your Honor.
okay, and does the state as well?
Your Honor, with regards to Mr. Williams being permitted to come to the Metro Atlanta area
Where you going?
or Cleveland Avenue area for a funeral or
To
the other items,
Right.
you also consider, God forbid, there's a serious medical condition of a person that
In
is,
his immediate family, certainly we can have that, and I also meant to mention,
She's going with
because I know you do travel
That's what I said. Where are you
all
taking
over.
her?
Oh, to his house. They're leaving from his house.
Pursue your career, that,
So,
it's permissible
she tell
for
me
your
she was-
probation
Nobody asked
to
me
be
about, see what I
transferred
mean?
to
I
out of
don't know.
state, and that has
What
to
are
be
you
done through
talking about?
probation,
She
but,
asked-
She
that
going
is
where
fine.
residents are going.
Yes, she asked you
And,
yesterday, and then you
you
told
may
her
also
again. She
keep
said,
your,
your dad said
nobody's
I can
mentioned
go,
it,
and she
keep
called
your
him.
passport and
Because I told her to
travel,
make sure she
out of
speaks to
state
you
and
before she
internationally to the
say
extent
something
that
to
you
them,
want to
so
do
that
that
they're not
for
promising
business
people and then your dad
purposes
says
as
no.
well. All right,
You see what I say? 50 first dates.
What that mean?
If we had a camera, it would be like on point, because just yesterday I explained 50 First Dates. I said, Keith, dealing with you, I said, did you ever see the movie 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore? And he said, yeah. I said, it's like you're like 50 First Dates. Every single day we have to start over from the beginning and fill you in on everything. And not only
That's
did
a
you
good
just
thing.
ask me about the movie, you don't remember
thank you,
anything.
and I appreciate, well, I
No,
can't
that's not a
even
good
begin
thing.
to understand what they must,
So Kaya going with you?
anybody must be going through when they
Mhm.
lose a family
I guess so,
member
yeah.
to violence or criminal violence. Mr. Williams himself
Why? What is
has
the problem?
expressed his own sorrow to the family. I, again, am gonna stand
If my
by my
husband cared
belief
so much,
that
then he would
the
be the one to
appropriate
go with me.
time
Got on
to
pajamas.
hear a victim impact statement from them is at the
So,
close
jump on
of
my
the
head.
trial that contains the murder count with regard to their family member.
You recognize
I
it?
hear that.
No, you recognize
Okay,
it?
court is adjourned,
You
Good
recognize
luck
it?
to you.
Like, yeah, no.
and I'm gonna have any, there better be no violations, but if there are any, you're coming back and see me. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Figure.
Young Thug is free. Young Thug is free, y'all. Ain't that some shit? Young Thug is motherfucking free. OMG. Young Thug is home.
Somebody said he just got away with murder, though. For real, for real.
He really did. He really did,
All
bro.
the lives lost in this shit.
A whole lot of lives lost.
That's a lot of niggas.
And he coming home. Boy. I know he was scared. Them was the
He
scariest.
was
Didn't I
scared.
tell you they was just gonna slap him on the wrist? This was a punishment for him? Didn't I say? I said this is a punishment. They botching this on purpose. I don't even know why they gave him a plea deal. That's how you know this was all just to fuck him up. Because why would you get this guy a plea deal? Did the state felt like they wasn't winning?
Probably.
So man, he better not fuck up. 6 years 15 years a long time.
Where's Kyle?
Old people going trick or treating.
I don't care. I will be doing it till I turn 20.
You don't know, don't eat that people candy. You don't know if they poking it.
I ate it last year. I was completely
You was
fine.
sick, wasn't you?
No, I was completely fine. If the candy's open, you throw it away. If it's sealed closed.
Why you ain't paint your nose?
That's what I did. It's yellow.
It don't look yellow.
Really? Should I redo it?
Oh, you can't see it.
Is it because it's dark?
What type of light is that?
Can you see it now?
Yeah, you can see it more.
Because I did it because in the dark, you won't even see the yellow. That's why.
You ain't gonna see it anyway.
I tried my best. Kaya tried helping me too.
What? That's it.
And then this is my trick or treating bag.
Okay.
You gonna knock on somebody's door, they gonna be like, man,
I don't care.
We don't serve candy around here.
If the lights
I'm like,
on,
this
it can't be lit.
They're like, you a grown ass
I
woman.
know. Yeah.
You grown.
No, I'm not.
He's 17.
I'm still a minor.
17. What Kaya?
She's in her room paying for things. Oh, Kaya. Kaya. I wish I had overall.
Hey, I'm gonna go out scaring people too with my costume on. I'm gonna jump out the trees on them. Young Thug is home. Ain't that crazy, y'all?
Kaya was Simon from the Chipmunks.
Kaya.
She was Simon.
Huh?
She was Simon. Oh, my costume on. You look so cute now. Oh, you know who you really look like? You ever seen oh my gosh, the Goofy movie?
Everyone kept asking her if she was a rainbow.
No, like you.
Someone asked me if I was Winnie the Pooh because of my shirt. Someone asked me if a girl asked me on the
You a regular person. That's how you dress every day.
But she looked like the girl from the Goofy movie.
She look like that.
Roxanne?
Yeah, she looked like Roxanne.
But that's how she dressed
You ever
every day.
seen Roxanne from the Goofy? You have no clue.
But is she supposed to be wearing a costume?
No, today was character day for Spirit Week.
Right, so she dressed
What
as
character?
Theodore.
She wanted to be Theodore.
So she had a green shirt on, and then she did.
I
her
had
chipmunk.
blue jeans. I had my green shirt on.
That's all they wear.
That do not look like Theodore.
I know she didn't do the dots, or she didn't.
Still wouldn't look like Theodore.
You
She
should
didn't
have
because
did
she has
Roxanne.
brownies in black. Okay, but you should do two pigtails, the dots.
You should have did Roxanne.
You should have dressed up like your dad.
That's okay.
Shut up, though. You're not even in a movie.
You could have worn my hat. I was in the movie. What you talking about?
My clip?
From my room?
No.
That's my clip from my room.
Oh, so you noticed.
Yes, I did.
She tried to lie. Because I don't see it.